and welcome again to I guess a weekly recap. So we did our scoring analysis, which went like an hour too long, but that's okay. And today's we're gonna recap an incredibly intense, emotional week in the games. So first of all, how's everyone feeling? Go
Good,
for it.
good.
Yeah.
Sure.
I guess I should welcome our voidlings for the first time. We actually streamed at a reasonable time for our voidlings, which of course, for anyone not familiar, those are the people that live not in the United States because everything else doesn't matter
Excuse you, in the Americas.
in the
There's more
Americas.
to Americas than United States,
Is it?
Caesar.
Is there? I'm kidding. I'm kidding. I'm kidding. Do we have?
So
I don't think
American
we
of
have.
you.
I know. I don't think we have any. I don't know of any fans that are in the Americas that aren't in the United States. But it would be really cool if
Oh
we
yeah,
did.
but I'm trying to be inclusive here.
Yeah, yeah, of course, of course. This is, I appreciate your input. I'm just thinking, I wish that we did. Because right now I know, I think we covered this last time, we have Australia. Uh, I'm trying to cover all of my bases here. Of course, Estonia, Sweden, UK.
Netherlands,
Oh, yeah, that's right. The Netherlands.
Belgium.
That I did not know about. Who's our Belgian friend?
Um, wasn't Timmy Belgian?
Oh, okay. Aw, Timmy. Timmy, like his sense of humor. Love it.
Actually, I'm not sure about Netherlands now because I was just going off. Oh yeah, Dutch speaking, and immediately put them in the Netherlands. Timmy, please don't kill me if I end up being a tribute next time.
Oh my God. Okay, and I think that's it, right? Am I crazy? We might have someone in Canada, but I can't remember right off. Anyway, okay, so where should we start? I think that why don't we start with the because I think the Barty has happened since we talked last, right?
I believe the Barty was taking place the last time we talked. I could be wrong about my timing there, but I feel like it was like the first day of the Barty the last time we
Yeah,
talked.
yeah, it must have been because you were like swishing in as Caesar for a moment and then swishing out because
Yeah,
you had
you're right.
to go
Yeah.
live.
Well, so let's talk about the Barty nonsense. So I of course genuinely, I was like, oh, this will be like a cute little fun thing. Like, oh, they'll be charmed. And I didn't, I mean, I expect maybe like one or two to be like miffed, but not like chaos to ensue. And it's a small amount of chaos in comparison to everything that's unfolded this week, but we're going to get to that. But in the meantime, so the Barty,
Mhm.
let's talk about that. So who was the, first of all, who won the best performer? Who was that? Was it Babette?
I believe Babette won off of score.
Yeah, okay. And then who won fan favorite?
Fan favorite was Yuka.
Oh yeah, oh of course, Uka. We okay. Who's here says Uka instead of Yuka?
The player has actually verified that the name is pronounced Yuka.
Oh, okay. Oh, now we know. All right, so it is officially Yuka. Okay. Yeah, Yuka. Man, Yuka's had a wild ride, but we can't like get it because I want to save that for like because that's gonna be our big topic. But first, just like the Barty, um, what do y'all think? Like, why did they freak out so hard? Like, what happened?
Teenage hormones?
Okay. Just like overreacting, I guess. And I think that Yuka, at least the character, seemed to be very genuinely frustrated about the whole like lore and flower thing. And I think that
Yeah,
go ahead.
I was just saying that also, just from the other chats, there were some people that really didn't want you guys to be there.
Oh,
Like,
really? Who?
they wanted to just be play. I can't remember.
Mm. That
Edgar,
was
do
in
you remember?
character. Yuka was not
Yeah,
happy with having the game makers and all that
I
at
got
the Bardi because you are the ones orchestrating their demise.
fair. Um, so that's fair. I got the impression more so that it was that there was a certain amount of resentment that it was it seemed that the game makers were being organized by Lauren Flower versus the other way around, and it wasn't necessarily that she was resentful that we were there in general. But do y'all disagree?
Gathered
I
that
think
as
this is
well.
oh.
Okay.
I think that for one, Flower and Lore taking over the role of like MC of the Barty and basically directing all the tributes, where to go, what to do, when it was their turn to talk, that kind of
Yeah.
thing. I think that led to a little bit of a resentment. Um, and then I feel like at the time, Mika may have thought that we were actually supportive of Lore and Flower having that role of leadership over the other tributes.
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
Um,
yeah, yeah. They thought they were the game maker favorites.
Mm.
yeah.
Well, what's interesting? This is gonna sound controversial, but I've thought a lot about this. I think it's safe to say I've had one out of game conversation with a tribute who was unhappy and thought that genuinely that the game was broken because things were being manipulated. And I talked with this person and they understood and agreed with what I'm about to say, which is that like, and I didn't tell them all of this, of course, but I think that um, the Barty creates a really cool opportunity that otherwise doesn't exist for the GMs to actually get to roleplay a little bit too. Second, um, if our presence there uh, creates some amount of tension and drama, like I'm not upset with that. Like if Lore takes it upon herself to say like, hey, I'd really like to be the leader here and like invite people and like be the host, fine, like, okay, we'll play along. And if that makes people resent you, like, that's your choice. That's not our doing, right? Like, we're not showing favoritism. In fact, it could be seen as the opposite and like endangering her because we made a point to announce that we showed up because of her letter, if that makes sense. What do y'all think? This is my favorite
I
part.
I agree
I agree.
completely, and I think it also just makes a lot of narrative sense.
Sure.
Like, there's a large gathering of tributes outside of organized hours. Of course, the game makers are going to be there keeping an eye on things.
Yeah,
I
sure,
don't
sure.
think, and I agree with you also that if Lore wants to put herself in this leadership role and no one pushes back on it really hard in real time, that's among the tributes. That has nothing to do with you guys.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. What were we gonna say, Senna?
I was gonna say that yes, I agree. I think that's more of a internalized fear versus
Right.
being a reality kind of thing.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It was, and it's fun too. I think it's a really cool opportunity for the GMs to interact with the tributes. And I think something that's happening for me this season more than definitely more than last season. Last season, it was really well done, but I think that it grows, of course, over seasons. And I think that one thing that I've learned is that there's so much more activity and there's so much more GM to tribute activity this or like communication this season that and we've kind of expressed this in the viewer lounge, it's going to be really hard when people start dying because now we know their whole backstory. We're connected to these people.
Ooh, so you're saying that Lore's plan actually kind of worked in real life?
Tell me
Because
more.
oh yeah, since you actually have a life, you probably haven't caught up with all of the channels.
Yeah, I'm
Also,
trying.
this literally just happened.
Okay.
Lore and Yuka had a lovely chat in the like fake wilderness area.
Okay.
Lore was trying to apologize to Yuka with like cookies and all, and she was explaining to Yuka like what her goal with inviting the game makers was, or the government officials,
Okay. And what was that goal?
to show them a little bit of tribute unity and to hopefully make them feel something when the tributes start dying. So it
Hmm.
might not help the tributes this season, but maybe they will feel bad enough to do something for next seasons.
That's cute.
He
Oh.
kind of got you though.
Yeah, no. Okay. So yes, it definitely helps us. The more that we can all interact and see them interact and like get involved in this world, the worse we're gonna feel when they die for sure. And I think that's the case for everyone. But it's adorable that they think that we are so sentimental, and I think, of course, it's in game, but even still, that we're so sentimental that we will be uh, less harsh on future tributes, because I can assure you that's not the case, especially with the season 3 arena shaping up like it is. Because my lord. Oof. So that's interesting. So okay, so I do want to go into, like, apparently a lot of stuff happened last night. I was gone. I was gone all night. I make a point to, like, I think I literally spend more time on this game than I do my full-time job, and so I have to, like, disconnect for a while. So last night was one of those moments. So we'll catch up on that. But now, so for what it's worth, anyone that's watching that, like, is super confused. I have some friends that might, like, tune in that haven't actually followed the server. Barty was an opportunity for the tributes to kind of come together and perform for each other and, like, celebrate before in the last few days before the game. So we've kind of covered the Barty. So now, of course, the main event, at least for me, is Nisi's letter. So can we first talk about how Nisi is, like, the most unassuming, nice bongo playing guy who, like, is like, oh, by the way, I'm just gonna, like, forge everything and sow chaos completely. It's like, how has, okay, so I guess the question is, has the letter changed your opinion of Nisi, and if so, in what way?
Opinion
Yes, wholeheartedly.
skyrocketed.
Okay, what were you saying, Senna?
I would say 100%. Like, Nisi is one of my tributes, and going in, of course, you see potential that all of them have, and I honestly did not expect something like this from Nisi, and truly, I think they didn't expect it themselves. I think when they put together this note, they had no idea the potential that it would cause, the drama, how everyone has been spending their tribute investigations to figure out who wrote this note. It's been incredible, and I think honestly they are the MVP of the pre games for sure.
So far, yeah. And Serafina, what were you saying?
Sorry, I'm having dinner at the same time, so I mute myself every time I'm numbing.
No problem.
Oh, and those people who were wondering how the heck do you pronounce my real name? Hi, I'm Derya.
Oh, interesting. We definitely were calling you Terhe, so now we know. Teria.
Yeah, I've been called all kinds of things. One of my favorites is people from the UK insisting it's Turgy. Not a fan.
Right.
But yeah, on Nisi, they genuinely have no clue what they have unleashed. And it's amazing. Like, they were literally typing, oh yeah, I see that there's stuff going down between Flower and Genie at the moment, but it doesn't
Oh.
seem like anything is, like, happening much now, so I'm gonna go to sleep. A few minutes later, Flower and Genie officially cut ties.
Oh, wait. Was that last
Oh,
night?
no, that's like now.
Like 20 minutes
You are
ago.
missing so much tea.
Okay, wait, but
Flower
let's
decided to cut
let,
all ties ever.
so let's catch up on that. Yeah. So, like, I want to catch up on that, but I want to start with, like, the beginning. So I want to start with,
Yeah.
like, if that's okay. So, like, Nisi and, like, how unexpected this was.
Yeah.
I would say for me, like, Nisi seems like sort of like is this safe to say? It's probably safe to say. Just, like, like a cool, relaxed pothead kind of guy. And then
Person, it's they.
Yeah, I don't
person,
know if it would
thank
be.
you. What'd you say?
Yeah. I was just gonna say I don't know if it's accurate to call them a guy.
Yeah, my bad.
Yeah.
I'm learning. But this just, like, very chill person that all of a sudden became this, like, the meme of the little girl with the fire in the background, the house on fire in the background, just, like, eating it up. So
To be fully clear, Nisi is still a very chill person. It's basically like dropping a bomb off a bridge and just walking away.
yeah.
Like, they're just like, all right, well, I've done my part. Anyway.
So someone
And their
in the
stylist. Oh, sorry.
no, it's okay. So someone in the chat mentioned that it's Louise, like, from Bob's Burgers, and I think that's an extremely, although Louise is not at all relaxed. It's almost like, so, like, that they became Louise and then became not Louise.
Didn't they post that GIF themselves? I think in their
Yes.
tribute channel, they literally posted the Louise in front of fire giggling gif.
I wonder, like, I'm just gonna call you Serafina. Serafina, I try to call people by
That's
their
fine.
their person names, um, PC names. Anyway, um, you mentioned that you don't think that they have a feeling of like what actually they unleashed. Do you think they do, or do you think that they still don't have quite an idea how chaotic it's been?
No, I don't think they have any clue because they do not they are not actually active
Okay.
in pretty much any alliances. The only one I've seen them interact in a bit is like Kit's Pals or what that was named, which is an alliance that's not really an alliance. It's more deep talk with weird gifs in the middle. So it's entertaining, but not really an alliance. Um, but yeah, there is actually someone on the server who is friends with Nisi in real life, and they are not telling Nisi anything. And Nisi's like, "Nope,
Sure.
I don't want to know anything.
Yeah.
Don't tell me." But yeah, the friend is enjoying this very much because Nisi has no clue what they have done.
Yeah.
And I
So,
would really love the stylist to go and try to get a bit of scoop. Like, what was the plan here?
oh
What did
yeah,
they
that's
want
a
to
good
do?
idea. Who is who and Senna that yeah, maybe you could we could send you on that journey.
Yeah, after every one of my tributes has been finishing their evaluations,
Okay.
Senna goes to visit with them, so that'll definitely come up when I go to visit
Got
Nisi.
it. By the way, I'm watching the chat. A couple things. One, just very quickly, we think we also have someone from Norway, so that's cool. Also, and that would be Everin. And then, actually, Nisi's friend is in the chat right now and on Twitch and commenting and said that they can assure us that they have no idea that like the chaos that they've unleashed. So let's talk about that chaos. So, of course, the finger has been pointed all over the place, including at me. And it's like I had to untangle what complicated math got them to me. And I think I've realized that it was because I was the one to let them know that there was something posted and it had something written on it. But like just because I said that it's metagaming, I think they accidentally metagaming when they because they wouldn't know that I posted it, right? In real life, they would just show up and they saw this thing. But of course, that just like took off, and I toyed with not. I wasn't sure what I would do in that situation, but luckily Flower took care of it because he just approached me about it, and I was like, okay, then in that case, I would just be honest. But so how many? Okay, let's cover how who has gotten who has gotten accused so far. Obviously Uka, obviously me. Who else?
Can we get
Oh.
some S in the chat for Senna real quick? Because Senna had to deal with so much shit last night.
It was a bit of a disaster last night, I'm not gonna lie. I was stressing out IRL.
Okay, just tell me. I
You
need to
got
know.
stuck
Tell
with
me what
all
happened.
of the tributes that are super paranoid here. Like, I don't know how this happened, but your tributes are the only ones that are paranoid about this. All of mine are just vibing right now, which I felt
Except
like
for
would be the
Lore,
opposite
yeah.
because you gave me all the dramatic ones.
Right? I know. It was something. So yeah, it started out, of course, where Yuka was the main suspect.
Okay.
And then it went to Caesar. But once that all resolved, last night they just went ham on trying to figure out who this could have been. They made a list of all the people that attended the party
Oh my god.
and all the people that were present in the refreshments area the next morning, and they just one by one just started investigating these people. So, uh, for it was what's funny is I'll note that when this all first started, they were making the list and stuff. Flower jokingly said, "Maybe it was Nisi," and everyone was like, "Oh, it could have been, it could have been." And he went and checked in his channel, and I think misinterpreted his roles, like the results of his roles and what I told him, and
Okay.
went back and told the group, "No, it can't be Nisi." And so,
What?
and so when he did that and
Oh
he told
no.
them that, they were like, "Okay, yeah, that's fine. Let's mark Nisi off." And then they started going on to everyone else. So the main suspect that came up for a while was Babette.
Oh.
Ayla checked and found out that Babette had a proficiency with forgery tools.
Okay.
and went and told everyone, and they're like, okay, this could be it. Maybe Babette wrote it for Yuka. But after talking to Babette and her basically saying that she honestly didn't give a fuck about the drama, they were like, okay, maybe it wasn't Babette then. Um, they did go through a whole several people, but eventually at the end last night, uh, someone brought up, okay, what if it was Tiberius? Because
Okay.
Tiberius, of course, we talked about last time on the channel that he has some things against lore possibly, and may not be a fan of Flower. And they thought, okay, well, is it possible that the reason he's been missing is because
Ah.
that's his alibi? Like he dropped the note and left and has just been watching the chaos.
Okay. That's clever,
So
actually.
yeah, it actually kind of makes sense, and I think that's the problem. Lore ended up going into her channel and being like, okay, I want to see, does Tiberius have a proficiency with forgery kits? And when I saw her ask that, I was like, oh shit. So she did her roll and got high enough, and I was like, so after hanging out with Tiberius and watching him and all of your personal conversations with him, you know that he has a proficiency with forgery kits.
Oh my
And
God.
she just ran with that. She's like, "Oh my god, alert, alert. Like we found out it is definitely Tiberius that did this."
Oh,
So
that's amazing.
that's currently where they're at.
So to be
Of course,
clear, sorry, to be clear, Nisi does not.
no,
Yeah,
it does
and
not.
and so
Or they do not. Sorry.
so the investigation role, DC is what, like 10?
It was 12, yeah.
Yeah, it's really
Yeah.
the only caveat to that, of course, is that they would like the DC to know whether something is forged is different
Mhm.
than knowing who wrote it. And so to know who wrote
Right.
it, you would have to have a sample of the writing and then be able to compare and do an intelligence check.
Yeah, and they did not have uh a skill for that
Yeah,
to be able to find out that it was Nisi that actually wrote it. So
it's
they just figured out that they didn't have a proficiency.
it's wild to me. I'm trying to do this in the nicest possible way. Um, like I have been surprised at how this is a genuine mystery for them, and I'm excited for that mystery. But the lapse in logic and several of the steps, I'm like, because I literally wrote them a handwritten note for a reason. I was like, hey, here's handwriting, just compare it. And then he was like, and I was like, okay, if you compare it. And then like, if it were me in this situation, granted, who knows, right? Maybe I wouldn't have the wherewithal to think of this, but like have everyone write something and then compare their writing, right? Am I
Well, my
crazy?
favorite part about this too is like it was clearly forged to look like Lorelai's handwriting.
Sure.
Hmm.
So, but they spent so long trying to be like, whose handwriting is this? It's like, guys, it's
It's
literally
Laura's handwriting.
Lorelai's.
Yeah.
She didn't write it, but it's forged to look like hers. Like, you don't have to. Like, they just spent so many steps trying to figure out whose handwriting it was, and it's like, guys,
We
we
told you.
literally told you.
Like in the original post that it is
I
in Laura's
know.
handwriting.
It was
Yeah.
hilarious, and I
It
love
was
that they stuck onto the Tiberius story. Makes sense, so I'm not shocked that they're stuck on it. But it
Sure.
is funny that they're like, "Oh, it has to be forgery kit proficiency." Like, no, if you roll high enough, you can forge a letter and not have proficiency in the kit. You can use kits without proficiency.
Yep.
So it's a good way to think about, like, oh, well, the DC is probably pretty high to forge something. It's a good idea to look for people with proficiencies, but
But except that that's not the way it works. If
yeah,
they knew the 5e rules well enough, they'd know that actually, and just for everyone, in case you were confused by this, I didn't know. In fact, you don't have to make a roll at all. Like as long as you have the kit and you spend the time, anyone can forge anything. And there's no roll involved at all. There's only a roll to discover that it is forged, if
Mhm.
that makes sense. And that's of course that DC is based on the writer's abilities and stuff.
Yeah.
Can
The
you
funniest
go
thing
ahead?
to me, sorry, the funniest thing to me right now is they have all the pieces to theoretically pin this on Nisi. So what's going on right now? Laura's talking with Rowan and one of her other alliances, and has shared with them the description of the charlatan background and the description of the forgery kit from Xanathar's.
Okay.
And Ayla knows that Nisi has, like, kind of a shady past. So it would make sense if they connected those dots that Nisi, and this is not the case, but they could, in theory, put together Nisi is perhaps a charlatan and therefore has proficiency with forgery kits and is granted a special proficiency in it by their background.
Theban, I'm going to jump in and correct you. They already know that Nisi does not have proficiency in
I'm sorry.
forgery kits.
I apologize. But at the same time, I think that's relevant. But I think they have the pieces there again that Nisi was potentially engaged in some shady behavior in their past.
Right.
And putting that together, in theory, could lead them to Nisi, but they haven't made that jump yet.
Going to the Tiberius thing. Imagine if you are the player of Tiberius, right? So you're like, you've been away. I have a promise. I hope, I have a promise that they will show up before the reaping. I'm sorry, the bloodbath. We'll see. But imagine if they do. They show up in the server some amount of time later, and they're like, okay, life has finally calmed down. I'm ready to play this game. And then you just have all of the DMs, and you just catch up, and you're like, what happened? What a bad life for the player of Tiberius. I'm looking through the notes here. Go ahead.
Yeah, I can't imagine, and especially coming in and being accused of something, especially when you have like no idea what's actually happening.
Oh man, and I go ahead.
They briefly, actually, Gresh made a reappearance last night or early this morning. It's all blending together, and Lore had this conversation with Gresh, and for a second there, they were talking in their alliance chats, saying maybe Gresh is involved in the notes. And I'm thinking to myself, poor Gresh has no clue what's happening.
Oh my god, it's like anyone that's quiet gets accused.
Yes.
Yeah, like Gresh dropped in the conversation something about the person who wrote the note had to be petty, and then people are like doing the red string connecting thing. They were like, petty is a word Tiberius used in his interview. So this means they're working together. And so now we're very suspicious of Gresh and Tiberius, neither of whom know what's going on.
Oh man. And like the multiple layers of paranoia that it takes to get there. I mean, to think that like literally it's like a QAnon style, like, oh, he said this word and this word has this many letters, and like, holy moly. I do think that this is going to be, I think like the Lore and Flower relationship. I think Uka trying to attack GMs, and I think Notegate. I think these are maybe the Barty. These are gonna like to be the big stories pre-game. What am I missing?
I mean, clearly you're missing the adorable slumber party that's going on. That is the most important thing happening right now.
Oh, I haven't seen it. I know that I saw the setup for it.
Yes, and Becky said that they made Senna a friendship bracelet at the slumber party.
Oh
like,
my god.
They are in onesies with cow plushes and making friendship bracelets and eating all kinds of noms. It is the most adorable thing.
That's
and I love
great.
that was going down while there was major drama happening on the training grounds.
The juxtaposition of those two things. It's pretty fantastic.
Well, also there's this juxtaposition of Rowan and Yuka being adorable and stuff, and all the drama.
Yeah, that's why like we were talking about like children. I think that like moving forward, my opinion of that is that we should allow children as much as people want to play children, but just have rules with like, if you're a child, here are the stipulations for what that means. But
yeah,
because like clearly, I think it has something to it's not completely controlled by, but I think it influences the fact that we like those two partially because they're so young and like innocent.
Absolutely. I was like 100% like, please, no kids next season, especially with all the, horniness and flirting going on, but Rowan and Yuka have absolutely changed my mind on that. So yeah, as long as there's like no like adult and underage flirting going on and
Right.
creepy shit like that, then
Yeah.
it's fine.
Yeah, they're playing it in a way that's very like I don't know if y'all saw Rowan's note that she sent to Uka, but it was the cutest thing I
So-
have. I'll just read it real quick.
Yeah,
It
yeah,
says,
give me
"Uka,
more."
thanks a whole lot for your note. I feel the same way. Since we're handing out compliments, I like your shiny teeth and your pretty scales. I think you're a very pretty lizard person. Let's wrestle soon."
Did you see when she read Yuka's note and she was like, "What could she possibly mean?" Oh, she means we should be best friends. Okay, I got it. I got it.
It's the
Aw.
best and the worst.
So cute. I love their little relationship so much because both are just so innocent and adorable, and they're really not trying to make it anything besides just a cute little plot point. And I really appreciate that approach instead of just trying to like I'm still salty about, using a relationship to be like, oh look, we're the main characters of the season.
So here's a question: with if Flower and Lore, if they like had this, but it didn't keep coming up in every conversation, would you still be anti Floor and Lauer? And this is kind of a question for everyone.
Can I just point out that you just said Floor and Lauer, which was very
Yes.
funny.
Yeah,
It
no,
was
That was
sure.
very
We'll go with that.
spoonerism. I love that.
I do that a lot.
Amazing.
I'm not good with words, which is of course ironic.
Yeah, aren't you a communications professor?
I think you sell yourself short because you're quite good with words, much better than me, of course.
When I can think of them. Okay, Flower and Lore. When if like they had handled it differently, are we just by nature not hating, right? Like, because the players will eventually watch this. Like, we're not hating it. We're just like, are we slightly bored with? Is it because like she was deemed princess by Caesar and the two of them? It's very cheesy. Is it because it just keeps coming up in every conversation? Because I think the reason I'm saying this is because on the one hand we're like Flower and Lore, we're like, ugh. But then with like Ro and Uka and the little kids, we're like, wee, which is also very cheesy. So like, what's the difference there?
I would say it's definitely more of the second for me personally. Is just it does keep coming up, just constantly.
Oversaturation,
And
really.
it affects every relationship they have.
Yeah.
Yeah, and there was definitely, this has been going on for what, like 3 weeks now, something like that. Time isn't real. It was in the early stages when this first started. A lot of people were very pro that relationship. I will fully admit I'm biased against it because I just hate romance and I think boys are gross. So
But you don't. But you're not against the Rowan and Yuka thing, and you
yeah,
think it's
I think that it's because it's much more of like a cute, like, oh, this is adorable type of thing. For them, they were taking it very seriously,
okay.
and it just became so central to the characters, and they kind of were pulling everybody else into the sphere a bit.
Yeah.
And I think that it left a bad taste in a lot of people's mouths with the way that, like, the little Barty thing was done and everything. I think that it was just so much. And I think it was the quantity too. If we're looking at how much role playing was done in just the past few weeks, oh my god, it was overwhelming. And so much of it was just the drama between Flower and Lore. And, oh, is she going to pick Flower or Tiberius? And then it was, I think it was just too much. The way that Rowan and Uka are doing it is just cute because they're little friends. And I think that they play it in such a way where it's clear that they're, trying to do this cute little like baby romance thing, but
Because the
I don't
players
think
also specified that they do not want to go further than maybe hand holding.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, exactly.
Cinna, were you trying to say something?
No, I was just
Oh,
coughing,
okay.
but
Oh, okay. Sorry. I was just making sure
but I
that you
do-
got your voice.
No, that's fine. But yeah, I guess I do kind of have something to say. I as I have mixed feelings on it, I guess. So if we throw back to season 1, there was a certain romance in season 1, and I was involved in that. And I felt like it was more focused on sticking together as a part of the games. That romance, it was more of a mutual like trust relationship versus this one has become more of a touchy feely like
Showering together.
yeah, basically. So I think that kind of threw things off. Like the nature of the games is to fight, right? And I think their relationship kind of threw that away a little bit and made it more into a Love Island thing versus a Hunger Games thing. And I think that's what made it
Yeah.
uncomfortable for
So
people.
I'm gonna add this part though. As a working, so like being married to a game designer makes you think about things in a meta way that are sometimes distracting. But in this case, I think I don't actually like hate. I like that there's this story. Like there's a very clear story. There are pros, there are cons, there are some people that hate it. Obviously they have allies, so it's worked to some degree. We we have this like very clear storyline that I think adds a lot to the game, even if it's annoying for some people. I think they've done a good job telling the story.
Yeah,
I'd
I,
agree to
I
that.
like the I like the initial idea of the story, and I was like quite pro that romance in the beginning because it was new and interesting. But it as it went on, I started feeling that it made the characters flat.
Yeah.
Like
Okay.
before, both Lore and Flower had more to their characters, and then suddenly it all got flattened down to this romance angle,
Yeah. And
and
someone actually
that's
said, "Go ahead, please."
yeah. Like I also saw that a lot in viewer discussion with people getting tired of it and all that, and people starting to kind of avoid their channels because of the lengthy romance roleplay, and people only tuning in when there was some sort of drama that shook things up.
Right. Well, okay, I have two notes here. I think one, someone in the chat also essentially said the same thing. Nisi's friend said that the relationship shouldn't be your whole personality. I would say that like I think that there is a market, right? Like it might be that there are because we have a server of this server I think has a couple hundred people. Um, there might be people that are less vocal or feel like they can't be as vocal because there are a lot of critics of the relationship. There might be a market for that, right? Like there might be a lot of people watching and reading that romance, and they enjoy that storyline. So I don't know. I think that like I hear y'all, I see it. I think it's introduced a really interesting dynamic, and I actually wanted to talk about that next. Who can we say are firm, and apparently this has changed in the last 20 minutes, firm allies of no, Flower and Lore?
They may
I
have to be separate categories now.
Okay. And you were talking Lily.
I think that Clem and
Okay.
Ayla are strong allies of Lore. Maybe not necessarily Flower, especially since they were threatening to kill him last night when they thought that he might have written the note.
Oh
They
God.
wanted to kill him so bad. They really wanted to kill him. Like immediately, they were like, "Can we please kill him? Please, please, please let us kill him."
Yeah.
Sorry.
So
Wow.
I don't know. I don't know if there's any allies of the relationship per se.
Hmm.
But I think each. Well, maybe Kit, but I'd say she's more Flower.
Sure. Yeah.
I think each side has their own, but I think if it comes down to it, there's not a solid group of allies just for them being together.
So is this a weakness in? So okay, on the one hand, I think Lore has made herself a target to a number of people, but also she has built a number of allies. She's played a really active social game. Flower, of course, is I guess aligned technically with Lore, but like hasn't otherwise played that much of a social game. So he has Kit, but like who else? Yeah, that's what I thought.
Yeah,
Flower is
yeah,
like
it's
in a precarious situation, I think.
It is, and that's one of the things that I kind of hoped he would have realized earlier on, is that he set himself up to kind of be a supporting character in Lore's story,
Yeah.
and I didn't want that for him. Lore's even mentioned, and I know that that Serafina, I think, caught this, that Flower is the court jester,
Yeah.
and she was like outlining who everybody
Oof.
is. Jenny is the knight, and Flower's the court jester, and all of these things. Instead of making her the prince or him the prince, she's made him her, like, I don't know, her entertainment.
Yeah.
That's a difficult place for him to be, especially if the alliances break up. Most of them will go to Laura's side, and he'll be left on
Yeah.
his own.
Right.
I think he might have realized that like yesterday,
Yes, I think so too.
because he started trying to repair his relationship with Kit, which is not a relationship that he seemed especially interested in since they
Yep.
arrived at the capital.
Yep.
But then yesterday he went to her, he apologized, he's trying to sort of reestablish that connection because I think he's starting to understand that she's the only person who's like really, really committed to him personally.
When I stepped away, the last thing I kind of dealt with was that Flowers scenario where he asked to change his coins, or coin, and he last I saw, he was like, okay, let me think about it. And then I checked the alliance chat with him and Lore and Jeannie, and he hadn't told them. Like, they knew that he was rolling to find out more information, and he had never gotten back to them. And it implied to me that he might be like actually wanting to change coins to like make a bold move, but I haven't seen anything since. Does that follow, or is that probably not the case?
He has told Lore, who was quite hurt by it, because she thought Flower was like trying to double cross her and trying to get away from her.
Okay.
So that was like additional drama on top of the drama cupcake. But yeah, she's the only one he's told, and now he's like, well, I just wanted to know if we could swap coins, and we can. So I got the information I wanted.
Okay, I see.
Yeah, and now he's going into all these alliance chats talking about how he's cutting all ties. And it's becoming this whole thing. And it's really interesting because when he was faking that fight with Lorelai, they were talking about it in their alliance channels while they were role playing the fight, and like it was very clearly faked.
Yeah.
He is talking about how he's cutting ties with all the alliances in his alliance chat. So I feel like there's almost this level of credibility that it's getting.
Okay.
And I think that like this might be a genuine thing that he's doing rather than just something that they're doing to maybe try to like make people think that their alliance is splintering faster than it really is.
He should really
but
consider. I'm sorry. He should really consider not breaking all alliances.
yeah. Well, and I was gonna say, like, the lizard folk alliance with Pollen and Rowan,
Right.
it seems like it's a pretty strong alliance, and they have a chat with him. They have that little snack time alliance.
I
They made
don't.
it very clear that they don't trust him,
Yeah.
but it's a little. I think that tactically, if he would have been able to sort of build up that trust with them, he probably would be able to go to that alliance instead of the one that he has with the. I keep wanting to call them the plastics because somebody referred to them as the plastics
no.
before. Now I can't get out of my head. But he alienated basically everybody that wasn't in his sort of core group. And it sounds like they're actually having issues in the core group. And there's no evidence that it's a fake fight at this point.
Yeah.
It might be. It might just be for drama and for show. But in the alliance channels, it is still him cutting ties. So I have not seen evidence that this is not a real splintering
What
going
Yeah.
on.
what happened between him and so while we were chatting, something happened between him and Jeannie. What happened?
So Jenny was just, doing her thing in the gym, and Flower came up and wanted to talk. And I think Jeannie is upset that Flower's been running around and creating all of these small alliances with people trying to
Mm.
figure out information, and it feels like he is basically either double crossing or talking behind the main alliance's back, and she doesn't trust it. And Flower doesn't understand why his actions or how his actions makes him look sus. So they had a confrontation about that, and after going back and forth and having a lot of very hilarious insults, um, it was quite funny. I was like, I wish I was as brilliant as them to come up with things this quickly. I am someone who, when I get in a fight, I like space out, cannot think of any insults to come up with, and then I think of everything afterwards. But they fought it out, and then Flower decided, you know what? I think we need to cut ties because we obviously don't see eye to eye. And
Yikes.
I
Flower.
I yeah, and I can let you all know that the fight was genuine, and he is definitely serious about cutting ties. Um, I actually messaged both of the players because they both seemed quite upset, and I just wanted to make sure they were okay
Right.
IRL.
Yeah.
And
Are they?
they are, yeah,
Okay.
they are.
Okay.
They said that it's been a lot, that the drama the last couple days has been pretty anxiety inducing,
Sure, yeah.
but that they're okay. I suggested that they maybe like, take today to
Yeah.
maybe step away a little bit, or
That's a
calm
thing.
down a
So
little bit.
like
Yeah.
I think that there's some conversation to be had about how like when people go on Big Brother, Survivor, etc., these sort of like these reality shows where they are isolated and then put under pressure. These people are um, screened psychologically, and then they have psychological help. They regularly meet with psychologists and that sort of thing on set. And while this is not as extreme an environment, there's something to be said about the fact that it's not that. And it can I can imagine. I mean, these characters we just like we know them, their players know them more, and they're tied to these people. And Erica, you mentioned how when Thyra died, I mean, you spent a day just crying because you were devastated. And I think that when a friend betrays you, even though it's a character, it's easy to see it as like words on a screen, but like these are real things that are happening to real people, and it probably, yeah, it can be a really emotional experience, especially when this past couple of days has been wild.
I actually thought about suggesting that if there's somebody qualified for it and up for it, to maybe organize some sort of like out of character checkup things with the players, and like not quite a therapy circle, but some sort of things to make sure that even when the characters are fighting, the players are okay and the players don't break from it, because it is a lot of stress.
I'm gonna write that down because I think that's a good idea. I mean, I am absolutely not qualified. I think I would be pretty solid at that. I could do that, but I also, probably be better if someone was actually a therapist. But
I
I
don't
was
have
gonna
psychology
suggest
training.
it.
Oh, sorry.
Oh, I was gonna say I was literally gonna suggest the same thing. Um,
Like, I don't have psychology training, but I do have a lot of experience in conducting group trainings in like very stressful situations.
hmm
And like what we've like, what I do there after like conflicts and things happen, and we push conflict on purpose sometimes to make sure that people see how others react under stress,
hmm.
so they know how to handle things when things get tough, when they're actually working together.
Right.
But yeah, after situations like that, we have debriefings where everything is talked through. There's actual methods for it. I can definitely share the materials, and I don't know, set up a little training for the government officials if they want to do that kind of stuff for the players.
Yeah, if you could just definitely send over information, and then after this chat, the GMs will chat and like figure out a path forward, because I like the idea of having maybe once or twice a week just kind of following up with each person, being like, and that also I think would encourage them to things like Tiberius, Cray, these people that are Vargosh they're kind of struggling to be active, might encourage them to like at least communicate when they're not able to be productive or as active and stuff. So yeah,
Yeah,
definitely have that conversation. Go ahead.
it may be a good idea to maybe have like a quick like form that we just, send like, hey, quick mental health check-in. We do this in DMs with tributes, just one-on-one personal, like, hey, just checking to make sure you're okay. And then certainly in situations where there's conflict, just making sure that we get a chance to have some sort of mediation. Because
And
they
if
can be
needed,
very
with the
difficult.
parties involved in the conflict together in the same chat.
Yeah, absolutely. And if we prepare tributes for this possibility, so they're not going to be like, freaking out if they get a DM from a government
Yeah,
official, because
sure.
that is like, holy shit, am I in trouble?
Man,
I know
that time when oh, go ahead.
oh, you can go ahead.
I was just gonna say it was a change of subject, but the time when I had to what was it? Was it a screenshot? They were doing something. Oh no, it was when they were looking at D&D Beyond and like getting information that they weren't supposed to have. When I was like, "Hello," and they were like, "Oh shit."
Oh, damn, Dad is here.
Yeah. I think
My
by the way,
favorite.
moving forward, I think we're gonna have to the early thought is that we're simply going to just make it legal to look at people's D&D Beyond because it's just class and race. Um, just because like not making that legal means that the people that break it have an advantage, so we might as well just make it legal for everyone.
The only alternative would be making 24 separate campaigns.
Actually, no. There is another alternative.
Okay.
There is.
I have players who are very sneaky and like to reveal things during the play, so the party doesn't know everything about the character in advance. So one player actually made like a homebrew version of their race. So it showed us something other than what they actually were. So they just copied the race that they were, but named it something different. And I did the same when I played a changeling. I
Okay.
copied the changeling, made it into a homebrew thing, and named it Lotus Den Halfling, because that's what my changeling presented as.
I love that.
They had no idea until I revealed it myself.
Oh, that's awesome.
That's a really and we could actually I'm processing. Mm, yeah. That I think is the right. I think that's the right path. I have some ideas, but we'll have to like hash that out. But that's a good idea.
That can be done with both races and classes, so you can even just have everybody make their class and race into homebrew and just name it Tribute.
Yeah. Yeah. I think
That way
that's
nobody can see anything.
you are brilliant. Ugh. Love you so much.
I'm just somebody with sneaky players and who is a sneaky player herself. Feel free to DM me if you need help figuring out how this works.
Yeah, totally.
I am very active with D&D Beyond.
Yeah, I will. I had other topics, and they are leaving me because I got really into that.
I have something if
Okay,
you
yeah.
don't. So
You disappeared.
can you hear me?
We can now.
Okay, thank you. So tribute scoring. I don't know if you had that
Yeah.
plan to speak about. I will note before we go too deep into it that the tribute scores before all of this drama happened have shifted quite a bit.
Ooh.
People who were rated low have, there's some people who were rated low that they got involved and people really liked their role playing and they've increased. There are people that were rated high that I think people saw that they didn't particularly care how they handled the situation and they went down in score.
Wow.
Other one outside of the whole drama thing was Clem. And Clem had a very interesting evaluation and her
Ugh.
score shot up.
Oh, really?
Yeah, from what I saw last.
Let's talk about that real quick. So, um, needless to say, our lead game maker, that is to say, the person who's the game designer, was not particularly pleased either in or out of character with Clementine's show at the end of her evaluation. What did y'all think?
Oh, did she break your game?
It's not. The question becomes, to what degree is it role playing, and when does it step over the line to just being like obnoxious and making more work for game makers for no reason, and it's not actually adding to your story?
Okay, fair.
I think it felt very roleplay specific.
Right.
I don't think that she would intend to like be like, oh, your game sucks. And I did like how she was like trying to push the bound because nobody had tried to take more than one coin, and the pillars are going down slowly. I was shocked that it took so long for somebody to try to grab more than one
No,
coin.
actually, several did try, but
so.
Really?
the
Oh, I
pillars
don't
started
think
going back up. So then they were
Yeah.
like, "Oh, damn it!" and they put the coins back.
Yeah, I
Others
liked
did
that
try.
she really rolled with it, and that I liked that she sort of challenged him a little bit.
So
It
what do you?
felt very. Oh, go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry. Two thoughts here. One, I worry as a fellow game designer, I guess, or whatever, as a game maker, that the more this happens, the more people are going to be encouraged to do it, and it could get off the rails in future seasons. And second, I'm curious. I want to open this up to the group because Seneca and I have a plan, but what do y'all think is going to be the result of her tossing her coin back into the room and not having it physically on her?
Well,
Hope a
first of all, I would.
dragon.
Okay. Yeah. Shana.
The dragon.
Okay, let's go with Serafina first.
Okay. Well, first of all, since this was all in character and her character was acting up a lot, I think there should be in-game consequences for the character because she was openly being defiant of the lead game maker and trying to like subvert the rules and things. It was absolutely amazing. I enjoyed seeing that. But like personally as a player, if I would do that and have no repercussions, I would actually be disappointed.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Cinna.
Oh, I was just joking. I said I hope a dragon comes out, but that's obviously not going
Pretty
to
dramatic.
happen.
Yeah.
Yes.
Tiger.
But I agree. I
Tiger.
agree with Serafina.
Sorry, go ahead. Okay, all right, Tiger, sorry.
Yeah, so two things. One, somebody on Twitch said that it should teleport into her room and keep reappearing if she tosses it out, which I think is incredible. It just reminds me of like horror movies when they like burn something and then it appears again. That would
In
be
her
so
pocket.
creepy. Yes, exactly. It would be so scary for that kind of thing to happen, and I think in a good way. But I kind of like in these early seasons having tributes test the limits because that gives the game makers the opportunity to shut it down.
Yeah.
And I think that that plays into sort of the long-term hopelessness that I think is sort of, a central theme in being in a dystopian nightmare.
Yeah,
is
sure.
that like no matter
Exactly.
what you do, if you're trying to be the revolutionary, good fucking luck. You're a little level 1 tribute.
Oh.
Really? Okay. So
someone
You get made into an example.
yeah, exactly.
Someone in the chat mentioned Genie and Flower getting beat up for being defiant. So they I don't know that we ever confirmed they were beaten up. They were roughly taken to the rooms and then closed in the rooms. And I would say that like the reason that didn't happen to Clementine was because her show was so last minute that there wasn't the opportunity to kind of like jump in and role play that. But we have some ideas for how to correct for behavior and just in general. I think we've struggled with this. I'm just going to be a little more openly honest with you than I have. Seneca and I have had a lot of conversations about this, and Seneca generally is of the mind that like better to not overreact and to not shut down roleplay. I'm of the mind that it's important that we use this as storytelling devices. So we're trying to find that middle ground, and I'm curious as to like maybe open that up to everyone's conversation, so we can kind of get some insight. Like, should there be in-game repercussions? Of course, not out of game, but in-game repercussions for the players, particularly Genie and Clem, arguably Flower as well, and why?
I think just because of the game we're playing, yes. Like in canon of the Hunger Games, there would have been repercussions. So I don't want to make like you were saying, Seneca's thinking. I don't want to make it unfun for people who would like to play into that.
Right.
But I don't think it would be completely out of left field to be like, yeah, your actions have consequences because we're playing D&D and actions have consequences in this game.
Yeah, and I think that also we have 24 people in each season. Like, for better or for worse, there might be some kind of quote unquote main characters that come out, but that's more on the basis of they survive longer. I don't think that. I think that there's a lot of almost animosity that comes out when people feel like others are trying to make themselves the main character in the story, because there are 24 real people that are all playing this game.
Yeah.
And while some are more dedicated than others to, for example, the role play or to doing the pre-game stuff, they're still like on equal playing field when they get into the arena.
Real quick to jump in, I think what we're saying though, not so much the people that are making themselves main characters, but more so the ones that kind of rebelled very publicly.
Right. So that kind of gets to my point,
Okay.
is that like if they are role playing this rebellion, that kind of puts them as like the main character archetype, which I think it just it can get so old very quickly.
So then your argument is like a different one, which is to say that you think that if I'm saying this right, and tell me if I'm wrong, that like not only in canon would there be consequences, and thus we're telling a story and there should be consequences, but also that like structurally, big picture, there needs to be repercussions because it imbalances the game.
Exactly. It makes it potentially less fun for the other tributes that are involved with it, because some of them might not want to play the hey, let's rebel game. And if there's going to be large scale rebellion, then it forces the whole season to adjust to that.
Yeah.
So I'm not saying that that can't ever not happen, but having individual tributes that are finding ways to rebel, they should have consequences for that, because one, it's thematically appropriate and story appropriate, and they should know that that's, it's one teenager or young adult going against a fucking empire. Like, that is not quite realistic. Yeah. But also, I think that at least while we're in the early stages of this game, we're still trying to establish that very strong culture in roleplay, and trying to establish our own canon, and trying to also almost separate ourselves from the Hunger Games series itself.
Sure. Yeah.
Similar setting, but we're trying to establish our own story here.
Yeah.
So, in these early stages, thematically, it also doesn't really make sense for there to be rebellion that isn't quashed. And I imagine that tributes are not naive to that fact.
Sure.
And there can certainly be out of character discussion about these responses too, to make it clear, like, hey, this isn't personal. This is just the way that the story is going. And also trying to find ways for them to be able to accomplish their goals in a way that doesn't game.
Yeah, so to be clear to everyone, just so everyone knows, I did actually message the player of Flower and Genie after their punishment, quote unquote, to make sure that they understood it wasn't personal. So what I'm curious as to other thoughts though, because we heard a couple. I'd love to hear more thoughts.
I kind of said mine. Oh, sorry. Yeah, you go ahead. I've talked too much.
Sorry. So I'm in largely agreement with Tigress there, in that we are supposed to be this very imposing government, and it is a dystopian setting And I understand Dan's perspective or Seneca's perspective, where he's like, encouraging role play, but like the setting doesn't really call for that type of role play where you can be openly rebellious and then just get a little slap on the wrist for it. This is a very controlled environment where we're basically making them fight for their lives. Something that it was a small thing that happened, but that kind of caught my attention was I think it was a couple of days ago, Bramnor, when he destroyed the gym. I think he described like the peacekeepers cowling in fear of him or
Oh, I
something.
didn't catch it. Damn
And,
it. I would have
and I
done
was like,
something.
yeah, I was like thinking to myself, like, I don't think they would have done that and I'm not sure how Bramnor views these peacekeepers, but in my mind, these peacekeepers are like levels above these
Yeah.
tributes because
Yeah.
they're there to keep them
For
making sure that they're not doing anything bad. And so, I think that because of that ambiguity, these tributes aren't really seeing that they're kind of
Okay.
the ants
Yeah.
looking, or for lack of
That's
better words.
that's a good point, and I think that something that was suggested by an audience member some time ago was having essentially moderators, and I think that like this season has taught me so far is that like I am no outside of putting so much time into this, both me and Seneca. I know that Senna and Tigers have done a fantastic job kind of being in the conversations. But it's just pretty much impossible for like that few people to be on top of every single conversation that's happening because there's just so many. And I think that we might need moderators. And in that case, like it would be really nice if a moderator, rather than jumping in, pings us and is like, "Hey, something's going on. You might want to correct. Take a look at this thread." I think that there's a lot of use for that. What do y'all think, specifically Senna and Tigris?
I think it would be cool to have peacekeepers. Like we have our moderators
Yeah.
that are there to help enforce things, but they also have peacekeeper characters
Yeah,
who are
totally. I
able
think
to
that's how
give
it would
like this
work. Yeah.
warnings and do this in a role play fashion and also make it. I really think that the setting of like hopelessness is so important here
Yeah.
because like let's be honest, these tributes are getting a little too big for their britches. They need to be taken down a couple
Yeah.
of pegs, which
I,
will probably happen when they're all dying, but
yeah, it's
I
funny. It's funny because it's like we laugh about that, but it's actually like actually true. I think that actually the players of the tributes are getting a little like um they're like pushing the boundaries, and we're not like soft. They're too soft because we're not able to catch them.
right.
What were you thinking, Senna?
Yeah, I would agree. I will admit that I spend way too much time on the server than I probably should. I am on here pretty much from the time I wake up in the morning until I shut my computer off at night. So I'm pretty caught up on everything. But
Okay.
yeah, I think having some kind of support there would be beneficial and under the guise of the
Yeah.
peacekeeper kind of idea.
Yeah, and I think though that like while that's true, and we obviously I've noticed that like you're so good at it, it still puts an unfair onus on you. So for example, like oh you want to go like hang out with your kids, or like Senna's going on a vacation, like it shouldn't be that the only person we can rely on being in every single conversation is like one person. I think that having a team of people that are peacekeepers that are able to kind of jump in and if nothing else, like enforce in little bits, like to a small degree, but then flag us when needed. I think that would be really helpful. So we're gonna move on to the last topic because I want to do better at sticking to roughly an hour. So, and this is the betting system has finally been released. Um, I we that it was an absolute beast to get it working, but I think it's working now. What have we noticed so far? I haven't done the odds update for today yet, so I haven't actually looked at them today. But what are we noticing so far? Who do we think is a good bet? Who's not a good bet? Do we like the system in general? Not everyone at once. It's fine.
I think the
So
system's great.
What'd you say, Senna?
I think the system's great. I think it's really fun to see, and I'll be interested to see how the odds change as things kick off. Um, think the number one person that's been bet on so far, I can't guarantee it, of course, because I can't see behind the scenes this, but I think Jeannie has taken the know what I'm trying to say. Basically, her odds were the lowest or the highest. I
right-
don't know how you say
right-
that.
Right now, Jeannie has 1 in 11 odds. There are 2 people with better odds than that, which is Augie at 1 in 10 and Lana at 1 in 10 as well.
Yeah,
Okay.
wow. Augie, that's like for a wizard, that's wild. Like a 1 in 10.
Yeah.
I'm looking at the odds now. For a wizard to have a 1 in 10 odds, not guaranteed to go in. They're not going in with a book, spell book. That's just like wild to me. Let's see I'm looking at them now. No one is particularly in terrible shape now. They were pretty wonky there for a bit, but they've leveled out. Cray has the worst odds, but that makes sense because Cray's pretty inactive. And then I guess the best would be Augie and Lana. I know that. Go ahead, please.
Some people went in where when the odds were like super bad for several folks, and they just put a bunch of money on those people with the worst odds to even things out.
Right, and that's fine. The way that this system works is like, you lose the money that if those people don't win, so go for it if you want to bet for because it's like the highest risk, highest reward. I think Pollen is second to worst odds wise. But Pollen is I think that's a high value bet there because Pollen's not like an unlikely person to win.
But she doesn't want to win. She is in it
Okay.
for Rowan.
I see. That makes sense.
So
I
I'm
guess,
guessing that's also why Bekin Schleckil has not that good odds because she is there for Yuka.
The way that you said that name was just like a masterpiece because I cannot. I just say Becky.
I wanted to try saying it at least once.
Yeah.
I think the same thing counts for Ayla, really, because even though she could be a quite strong contender, she has made it very clear that she does not want to win, and she's going in there to die.
Who was it? In the interview, was it Ayla? There's someone in the interview that was like, "Yeah, I'm not gonna win." Was it Katrov?
It was Katrov.
Oh,
Yes.
okay, yeah. And understandably, his odds are not so great. There. Sorry, I'm getting better.
Yeah, but I believe their thing in the interview was that their god was telling them that they weren't going to win or something.
That's what it was.
I might be
Yep.
misremembering.
You're right. Yep, I remember that
And
now.
also, didn't he have the backstory that his dad was one of the game makers? So it's
Yes.
like all the odds are stacked against him, and he
Yeah.
will be killed anyway.
I believe Katrov uses they them pronouns.
Yeah. Yeah.
Did I say he now as well?
Sorry.
Sorry.
I do that too. I'm still learning. I think lore is kind of a not good bet. At 1 in 15, I think Lore has developed enough enemies that I'd be surprised if she won, but I might be wrong.
I agree
She
with you
is trying
there.
to play nice now. Sorry.
Yeah, Instead of what you're saying?
Yeah, I agree with you there. I think despite Lore having so many people early on, and even I guess still now, saying that they would die for her to see her win, I will be very surprised if she makes it into the top 3.
Yeah, I think so too. And I think that, like, for me, generally speaking, I think people like Lana, Safiria, like people that are playing a decent social game that are not disliked and have good builds. I think, although the builds matter so little, I think, but I don't know. I think those two are like in a good position. I'm trying to think of more.
By
Nisi,
the way, speaking of pinging the government officials, I do believe it was Lana who broke all the gym equipment before, and she just broke another one. If anybody wants to step in and do something.
Goodness.
Oh God. Okay.
Property destruction.
And where is that? What channel?
It's the gym equipment area.
General equipment. Okay. All right.
Oh my
Well,
goodness.
I guess we were gonna sign off anyway, so I can go rectify that situation. um,
Theater up.
so as a sign off thing, don't forget our long awaited scoring ceremony. I know Voidlings, I'm very sorry. But during the week we don't have an option, so it's going to be 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Wednesday. What the plan is that the chat itself will be open only. Oh, someone already left. Will be they're just like done. Will be open only to the tributes, so we will get to watch their responses, their reactions to these. But we will not be able to communicate with them directly. So in our own viewer discussion, we can kind of talk about that. And then we will be streaming as well. So if you want to come hang out with us via video, we'll be here having this conversation live. So please join us. We're looking forward to it. Any final thoughts before we sign off, before the scoring ceremony?
I actually have a random note on a completely different topic.
Let's do it.
I noticed recently that Ash had started posting a little bit, and they have also mentioned that it's really hard for them to get involved because there's so much going on, and it seems like they are like quite shy in social situations. So I'm just wondering if there's like any way to try to encourage the more shy participants to get involved as well in a way, because like as viewers we can do nothing, of course.
Yeah. So when you say shy, do you mean in game or out of game?
Yes.
Got it.
Sorry, I
Yeah.
had to.
I noticed that because I'm having conversations with them right now. And I'm trying to get a little bit more out of the conversation to see if this is in character shyness or if this is potentially something out of character. If I'm getting the sense that it might be out of character, I think I'm just going to message them personally. I've had a couple conversations with some tributes privately already where they're like, this is so overwhelming. There's so many. It is really hard to get involved when there's 23 other people, and a lot of them are already closely allied, and it can feel almost outside looking in.
I think that
almost,
go ahead.
I was gonna say, I almost feel like that's almost an advantage because then you're not getting wrapped up in all these messy alliances. And we have seen from Lane that it is very possible to survive on your own.
I think that like we should. This is something that to some degree is their responsibility to figure out, but maybe even like communicating in future seasons, like there's going to be a lot of conversation. Don't feel like you have to be in all of them. Like do what feels right for you and your character. So if your character would just kind of like walk into the training grounds and just kind of sit in a corner, wait for people to come to them, like that's a perfectly fine thing to do. Like feeling like you need to be in every conversation, I think could be overwhelming. Were you gonna say something?
Yeah, I was gonna say agreed, but ultimately it is their choice how they play, both as a character and as a player. And I don't think anyone should feel pressured that if they're not a part of the social game that they'll do poorly in the games, because I don't think that's direct relation. I think they can still do well in the games even if they're not involved in all of the social drama, for sure.
Right.
Oh, absolutely. I just wanted to make sure that somebody isn't left out just because they don't know like how to get involved with so much stuff going on, because like I have been that person like before I got involved in way too many youth organizations. So yeah, it might be my bleeding heart a little. So I just wanted to put it out there, like so there would at least be a discussion on like, is it something that should be handled in some way, and if not, then at least I've said something.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, it's something to think about for sure. All right. Well, thank you all, as always, for spending your afternoon with us. We're always really grateful for being able to do that. So we're having a lot of fun. Thank you for your time, and we'll see you on, hopefully, at least some of you, all of you, will see you Wednesday evening EST for the scoring ceremony. So until then, goodbye and good luck. May the odds be ever in your favor. Now I gotta find a way to insert. Okay.
Bye.
Bye.